T20 World Cup, baby. Let's go. Jamie, are you feeling the vibes? Are you feeling the excitement, the adrenaline pumping of another global cricket tournament, probably less than 12 months since the last?
After that intro, yeah, fuck yeah.
So we've gone through the round one. We're not calling them qualifiers because these teams have already qualified. We've gone through round one. Netherlands, you're through. Ireland, you're through. Who else is through?
Sri Lanka, you're through.
Who's the other one?
Zimbabwe, you're
Zimbabwe.
through.
Oh yeah, that was a vibey game.
Yeah.
So we've got our Super 12. I think it's an rubbish system for this teams who've gone through a whole qualifying tournament to qualify for another tournament that they then have to get through another qualification process for.
It's just an all right 12 as well.
An all right 12. But we're buzzing with the World Cup, back at the World Cup boys after happened last year. And I think they're going to happen every year, or there's going to be some kind of ICC trophy every year. So what does it matter?
You know,
we care. That's why we're.
Yeah, it doesn't diminish its importance or its uniqueness, or just
it's
take a leaf out of the IPL's book and just do it every 2 months.
Yeah. Or try and do a T20 tournament every other week.
And pick a specific month in the year to dismiss any red ball cricket and just put it in there. Have sponsors, but like Coca-Cola and Walkers, and just fuck up the younger generation in a very subtle way.
Yeah. So to mark the special occasion, that's why we're now doing a series of short little podcasts to celebrate the ICC Cricket World Cup 2022 in Australia. This was supposed to be hosted back in 2020, but was pushed back due to COVID. Then somehow, because India were hosting 2021, so they managed to skip ahead of Australia and have their hosted last year. So this is technically the 2020 Cricket World Cup.
I mean, it is the 2020 Cricket World Cup.
I'm so frustrated on it. This is a tangent, but there wasn't a 2020 World Cup in 2020, and that the ECB didn't launch a new 2020 campaign franchise thing in 2020 instead of the 100, because that's such a great way to globally market it, being like, oh, it's 2020, here's 2020. Don't know, what do I know? Well, yeah, COVID, so it doesn't matter. Cricket is happening, so we're going to be doing little videos over the course, mostly covering England, maybe some special guests, as in us talking about cricket, not having any guests on. Who knows? If you listen, you want to join, thanks. So we've got 2 games to cover today. We have Australia, New Zealand, and England, Afghanistan. We're going to jump right in with England and Afghanistan. England won that game by, gonna say 5 wickets.
I do not remember. I watched the whole game.
It happened today, and we remember it so well.
It was by 5 wickets.
Excellent, cool. I knew it. And speaking of 5 wickets, little Sammy Curran got 5 for 10.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, that's
absolutely
round it up or down.
Smashed it.
So Sam Curran, I think that's going to be our first point. Let's try and do, I don't know, 2 or 3 points per game, I guess. Sure. Let's keep it vibey. Sam Curran's been around now, England set up for about 4 years. So came in for an India series in 2018, test matches, and always has had this vibe of making things happen. I think he's gone a little bit under the radar recently, mainly through to people like Reece Topley coming through. I think the test team in terms of bowlers is quite settled in terms of fast bowlers. So I think he's kind of slipped down a pecking order, but I'm kind of thinking maybe white ball cricket is his niche. He wasn't selected for T20, the test series in Pakistan. So maybe this is his niche, but I thought he bowled really well. What I think is he managed to get such a sharp bouncer. It's a bit like Marcus Stoinis or Stoinis. You don't really expect a bouncer to come up so high because he's quite small and skinny. But it seems to surprise a lot of the batters today, especially. But yeah, I thought he bowled well. Did you think he bowled well for 5 for 10?
No, of course he did. Like he came back into the white ball fold like a few months ago, didn't he? And you're thinking, like, is that just to make up the numbers or whatever? And then you come into the World Cup and you're thinking he's probably a fifth bowler at best, like bowling all rounder. And like maybe he's the one that opponent batsmen will look at to score off. But like since he's come back in, he's been really, really good. Like his form's just taken off in a really unexpected way.
Yeah.
Like today he was doing some cross seams as well, which moved all around.
I thought you were going to say today he was doing some cross stitching. I was like, okay, good for him.
He might be. He might have done. That's what gets him in the mood for these
I mean, I hope
massive plays. But yeah, like he got it to bounce, he got it to swing, he got it to move. It was just a proper performance. Like I was thinking when he was just on 2 wickets, if England go on to win this game, he'd go under the radar. And then he gets like 3 wickets in his last 2 overs and manages to have the opportunity to take a hat trick as well. It's just a mad end spell. Like we might have found our death bowler.
Yeah, which obviously England have been struggling for a while, haven't they? Because Chris Jordan's really slipped down that kind of pecking order. I think he's probably one of the most expensive bowlers for England at death of recent times. Because obviously it was a massive blow when Topley got injured right on the eve of the World Cup, because he's been so consistent both at the new ball, middle overs, and at the end. You can kind of bowl him wherever and he's going to perform. So I think when he was injured, I was kind of, is that a big cog gone? But if Curran can fill that role, because obviously he can bat as well. But he's had a really good couple of weeks because he had a really good tour of Pakistan and a really good tour in that kind of mini series against Australia. So I think maybe he's had a bit more responsibilities coming to. I think Butler said that he's probably going to be given the ball more at the death as well, which is he's got a sense of responsibility. I think good luck to him. He's doing well.
Yeah, no, he's proven it. Like in one of the Pakistan games, like he was a very important player to win with the bat as well. He played an important innings there. He's just keep it up, Sammy C.
Keep it up. No, it's great to see. I'm now really happy with it. And that's the best ever figures for England in T20s as well. I think the previous best was Rashid. I think it's like something like 4 for 6, and then Jordan got something really similar. I think Woody's up there, Ravi's up there, Ravi Vipara as well. He's in the top 5. But no, yeah, it kind of feels left arm as well is always going to be effective, and especially if his cutters, slow balls, bounces. I think, if he can continue this form, then it's going to help England's chances massively. Other things about this game, obviously we skittled, but I think the bowling performances are probably more worthy talking about from an England perspective. One thing that really struck me was Stokes open the bowling.
Yeah, no, that's what I was.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? It surprised me because I know he opened the bowling in the warm-up game the other day, and I thought, oh, let's try to give him some overs. But then he trundles in the new ball straight away. I was shooketh.
It's not something you expect to happen. Like when he does it in the warm-up game, you're like, sure, maybe they're just trying something out.
Yeah.
But if he's the one that makes it move the most with the new ball, then as he proved to do today, like, go on, why not?
Yeah.
And like, if you can exploit your all-rounders to open the bowling or to bowl out their 4 overs, then you've got to exploit that to the maximum. Because if Stokes had those first 2 overs go well, which they did, and then go into a 3rd over and get smashed, then you've still got the option to bring on, say, Mo or Livingston. Like take over a potential 4th over that wouldn't have gone as well.
Yeah, because I think they only used 5 bowlers today, didn't they? Because I think they didn't have to go to even Mo or then to Livo or anyone else. It's interesting. I think it's a good ploy to have if you're not going to have Topley, because it would obviously have been Wokes and Topley if both had been fit. Because Stokes isn't a death bowler. You can easily just go back to 2016, wherever it was, with Carlos Brathwaite. but he does swing it. He does get a little bit of movement with the ball. You can see that in Test cricket. So probably is his best, strongest suit to bowl at the front. Yeah, I mean,
like you see in Test cricket as well. Like before he was captain, Root would always go to Stokes when England needed a wicket.
Yeah.
So maybe Butler's thinking we need wickets right from the start.
Yeah, early on. Yeah.
Like Stokes is the one to go to rather than wait a couple of overs or until the 10th over when you'd think an all-rounder would more likely come on.
Yeah.
Put him in from the start, get the wickets early.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it's also kind of like finding his place in this team, because there's been so much like background chat about should he be playing. I think absolutely yes. But like he's not been in the team for a while, so he's kind of stamping down on authority as a senior member of the team. Give him the new ball. He's batting at 4. Let him kind of establish those roles. He is an all-rounder. Give him the best chance to perform on every one of those abilities we know he's good at. So I give that 2 thumbs up.
Which is the most number of thumbs up you can give.
Yes, it is. I have to think about that. What else happened in this game? Fielding wise, it's probably the best I've seen England field in a long time. They took some fantastic catches. I think the best catch, you obviously got Butler's, I think it was behind the stumps, which was great. I think that's must be a lot of obviously incredibly skilled catch, but a lot of that with the pace of Wood has all got to be kind of reflex. Surprisingly, I think the best one for me was probably Rashid's. Because it was a skyer and he had to take it over his head. And Rashid isn't well renowned as one of the best fielders in the side. And the fact that he took that so cleanly, it's the kind of catch you can just easily see spilled. It's gone up high. He's got to go over his head. I thought it was a terrific catch. Maybe slightly almost 2 thumbs up. But it was. I thought that was from all the catches I saw. I thought that was just great, and I wouldn't expect it from Rashid personally. But Butler's was.
Butler's was a proper screamer. I think Wokes's caught and bowled was fantastic as well. Like like you said with the Butler, you sort of work on instinct and reactions, but with a keeper, you expect that sort of mad save kind of catch. But with a bowler, you've just run in and then you've exerted so much energy mentally and physically to then just bang out your hands.
It's all instinct, isn't it? But no, it's fantastic. There's been so many catches of the tournament, and we've had one day. I must have heard catch the tournament 4 times from watching these 2 games today. But it's great. I guess it's a World Cup which don't come around very often. You know, you've got to wait a whole year for the next one, so you got to really up your game for World Cups. But no, that's like in any format, it's the best I've seen in the field in ages. So it's great to see. I guess quickly to round off, their batting. I guess a tricky one, because I feel like I was listening to Mark Wood talk about it at the end. Because there's a lot of chat being like, oh, you got to try and get your net run rate up. But surely you just want to get the win and don't want to jeopardize that. So I think it was just in the end, just a professional performance. Just get it done. Don't worry about run rates. Just make sure you get the 2 points on the board. And it looked from what I watched, it was a tricky-ish wicket, especially against kind of Mohammad Nabi and Rashid Khan. They're both very experienced spin bowlers, and especially kind of a tacky pitch, dewy, big outfield. Boundaries aren't going to be that easy to come by. Just get the job done, I would say.
Yeah, no, Afghanistan struggled batting on the pitch as well. I think they're less used to these sort of conditions, and you can probably like judge that by them having 2 mainline spinners in as well. But yeah, like when Butler and Hales came out, it felt like they were trying to have a 10-wicket win. Like
I felt like that, when they were at 34 for none, I was like, oh, it's going to be 10 wickets.
Like Butler, he felt very composed when he was batting. Like he got his wicket was a bit of a shit one. Like maybe he lost concentration or just get out of the ground, Joss. I think the other batsmen didn't feel as comfortable. Hales was a bit bitty. Milan never got into his stride.
No.
Mo and Livingston were probably the other two
Yeah,
that settled the most into it. But take the win. Win's a win.
exactly. Yeah, and I think it shows kind of the elements of class of a batter at T20 level. So like someone like Butler makes a tricky pitch look very easy, and then him getting out looks like a loose shot rather than getting out. But all the other wickets, you can kind of see the skill of the bowler that has led to the downfall every time. Stokes coming down the wicket, but then it sticks in the wicket a bit and goes through onto his pad. Milan, again, bit stuck in the wicket. Normally just rock back, cut that away, but came on a bit slower, couldn't quite time it. Brook trying to hit it out the ground, but really not the kind of pitch to do that. Probably a bit of inexperience. So it's good to see. I think Livingston, who's obviously been injured for so long, to come in and just kind of steady the ship and be like, okay, I understand why you're in the team. Get some form under your belt. And he kind of, his experience, like Butler's in this format, kind of really shone, I thought. But I thought they both batted very well.
Yeah, like credit to Usman and Ibrahim Zidran for Afghanistan, both made 30s.
Yeah.
Like on the pitch especially, you've got to give them a lot of credit for how
Massively.
they played.
Yeah, because I think if they had got 20-ish more runs, I think it could have been a lot closer. Even when they were England 3-4 down, I was like, it's a foregone conclusion. You just know there's enough batting there. But if you had an extra pressure, a few more runs to squeeze on, I think it could have been interesting. So I think Afghanistan will be quite tricky going forward. So I definitely look forward to their game versus Australia with interest. But yeah, great start. GG's England. I imagine their next game's not till Wednesday against Ireland. Yeah, I don't see them making any changes to the team. You got enough rest for people like Mark Wood, then just get all the points you can, I'd say. Yeah.
I don't see any reason to change it unless, like you said, if Wood's not completely fit.
Yeah.
Like not to like disrespect Ireland, this is the game you could rest someone like Wood for.
Yeah.
Bring Jordan in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to, but
no, I agree. I think if they can, this is the team that they'll try and stick with throughout the tournament, because it's 4 or 5 games in the group and then semi-final, final. You got enough rest days between. I think you just try and push them out. It's bowling 4 overs. I mean, I say you're bowling 4 overs. I don't think Wood bowled a ball less than 140 Ks, I think, in this game. So
I think that's the big thing that's the big dependent on how far England will go. Can Wood overcome the fatigue from each game to the next in such a short period when he's bowling absolute mad paces?
Yeah, because I don't think there's really any other bowlers this tournament who are bowling as many kind of rockets as he is. I guess we'll see, but that he feels like, to me, the one out and out real pace bowler in the tournament. So fingers crossed, because he makes that difference. I know he got 2 wickets and Sam got 5 today, but that his pace would have led to wickets at the other end and bowling partnerships and all that kind of jazz. So no, I love watching Wood bowl. I think it's great. I think brilliant, especially his little Shearer moment as well earlier. But no, brilliant. So I'd expect him to go beat Ireland, but Ireland have done very well in the round 1, not qualifiers. So I expect Ireland to play well. I think Ireland are playing tomorrow, or am I making that up?
Ireland have Sri Lanka tomorrow.
Okay, nice. That's really 3 games from one group and then only 1 from the second. Fixtures interesting.
ICC, correct.
Makes no sense to me, but yeah, I think that will probably be quite close, to be honest. So we'll watch, we'll judge. But we have got another game to talk about today. A game I watched, but did you watch any of it?
I watched part of the Australian innings.
Okay. Well, a few statos to start things up, because I found this incredible. So before this, I think dating back about 11 years, the last 15 games New Zealand have played on Australian soil in the last 7 years, they have lost every single game, regardless of the format, which is mental. So then they go on today in the first game of the World Cup, where Australia are hosting. They get 200 for 3, and they just looked as if they had the point to prove the entire time. Like Finn Allen got 40 odd off about 16 balls. He was absolutely smashing it everywhere. Devon Conway got 92, red ink. And Jimmy Neesham came in at the end, got 6 off the last ball to get them to the big old 200. And then Australia in 17 overs crawled to 111 all out, which is their second biggest defeat in T20s. Their only biggest one was by 100 runs against England in 2005. Who I remember that game well in Southampton. And also, I think in a T20 World Cup, that is also their biggest defeat ever. So 89 against New Zealand, 74 against West Indies in 2012, and then 78 in 2014 against India. I thought they were absolutely shocking. It was awful. I mean, like for the last month or maybe last year, since they somehow burgled the win last year just because they won the toss in the final. I'm not bitter. Everyone's been saying, home conditions, Australia going to win this World Cup. They probably will go on and win it now. But their T20 form is not good. They lost 2-0 to England in the series just before this. They lost in India. They scraped a 1-0 win against West Indies at home. And they beat New Zealand, but I think only comprehensively in one game. And you always just feel like it just takes one team to have a real complete performance on the big stage and they'll knock them over. And they didn't even look second best today. They looked rubbish. There's like, I don't often say that much, but like the bowling, like you got bowlers like Stark, you got Cummins, Hazelwood, Zampa. You would probably be hard picked to find a better frontline attack for any team in the world. But none of them could find their form at all. Like Cummins was all over the shop. I think he went about 12s in the end. Hazelwood did get 2 for, but Stark's first over went for about 14, 15. So talk about setting a tone for your friggin' home World Cup. It was, and then their batting, like Finch has had problems for a while. He's obviously retired from ODI cricket and has been clinging on to the T20 captaincy. He's been batting at 4 in some of the games before this to try and get Cameron Green into open. But now he's back opening, and then that's obviously a struggle. You feel if Warner goes early, then they're going to struggle there. Mitch Marsh had a good tournament last year, but he's had injury problems since. Basically, I don't think they're very good. And then my last moan is that I always only hear time and time again, Glenn Maxwell is dangerous. You got to be careful. Glenn Maxwell could do something special. He's a dangerous player. You know what you're going to get. What are you going to get? When was the last time he ever did anything? When did he ever win a game for Australia in like the last year? Like I remember he went for $1 million in like one of the first IPLs, and ever since then he's been like, he's this great T20 player. And I would struggle to remember one really significant innings from Glenn Maxwell. But I'm sure people can point me in the right direction. But of late, I can't see him being Mr. Dangerous to Glenn Maxwell. I think he doesn't get in their first choice team. I don't think he gets in many other teams in this tournament. What are your thoughts on this game?
I mean, even for the favourites of the competition playing at home, with conditions you're used to, it's very difficult to get off Nelson.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
But like, just looking at their team, it feels like they're one of the few teams that has had a squad and starting 11 that hasn't really changed or evolved. Like it's Finch, Warner, Marsh, Maxwell, David, Stoinis, Wade, Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, Zampa. Like David's a relatively new.
Yeah, he's only Tim David only just came in. He was kind of Mr. Franchise Man. So he's taken Steve Smith's place. But other than that, it's exactly the same team as last year that won the World Cup.
Yeah. Whereas you look at New Zealand with Finn Allen, who you said smashed it, and I think Mark Chapman made his debut as well. I don't think he did anything, but
Let me have a quick look. I don't think he did anything, no at all. But you got Glenn Phillips, who's been absolutely smashing it for New Zealand and in kind of franchise cricket. But New Zealand have been really poor of late in kind of T20s, and this is kind of beauty and kind of annoyance with T20s that, you know, Australia this time last year were the worst T20 side in the tournament, I'd argue, and then somehow they win it. I wouldn't be shocked if New Zealand went on and won this after losing pretty much all their last T20 series. Like, it's such a bizarre format, but looking at it today, you it's from the first over, you just felt New Zealand got this.
Yeah. Like that Australian core just hasn't evolved or been refreshed in any sort of way. And especially in T20s, I feel like that's a very important thing to continue to adapt your team to the current meta, for lack of a better word. England continued to do it. They brought Sam Curran back in, like New Zealand with Finn Allen, for example. But this Australian team just feels like the same team every year. Not to say
same old tunes.
It's not to say Cummins or Stark or Hazelwood aren't good bowlers, because clearly they are. But after a while, batsmen do figure you out to an extent. I think in this match, Cummins might have seen a bit of that to an extent.
Yeah, and like, let's forget, like, that series they played against England should have been 3-0, apart from the rain that washed out the last one. That for me would be sending alarm bells ringing and be like, oh, maybe we need to look at who should we bring in. But they've just been struggling. They had Cam Green, who went to India and opened the batting in India and did really, really well. And I think they really want Cameron Green to be in this team. But then if he gets in, he has to open. And if he's going to open, then you drop Finch, who's your captain, which you can't do. And then
I disagree. I think you can.
I disagree. I think he probably should drop himself eventually, because I think his form is all over the shop. I mean, he had a couple of good-ish innings against England, but I think he's struggling a lot. And when you've got your captain struggling, you look at the same flip side. I think we've already discussed it in the main pod, but Morgan retired. He is like, I'm done. I'm not going to stay on T20 or ODIs. I'm just gone. I can't perform to the levels I can. If Finch is saying he can't perform to the levels he can in ODI cricket, what's the difference between that and really T20s? You're going to face the same bowlers. You're still at the top of your order, white ball. I think he's hanging on for this, and it's not going particularly well. I've got nothing against Finch. He's pretty, from what I've heard of him in interviews and stuff, he's a pretty all right guy to come. But I think you're right that the team does need to evolve, and the fact this just felt they're trying to repeat what happened last year, even though last year I think was a bit of a, like I said, burgled it. It's like I said again, Glenn Maxwell's not done anything massively in ages. Aaron Finch hasn't. You're relying heavily on David Warner, who's 35, 36 now. But he's not going to lead you into the next tournament. He's obviously not done much today. He was a bit unlucky today, to be fair. But then you've got to try and get Cameron Green in. Surely he's probably one of your best players, and he's not in the team for all these other players who have done nothing today. But I can't see them changing. But it was bad. Like I said, even the first couple of overs, I'm like, New Zealand are winning this. I think they were like 40 odd of the first 3 overs. You just got that sense and that vibe that Australia didn't feel like they were ready for this tournament at home. Like, that's not a good way to start a tournament. And then obviously they've got to go play England, who pretty much beat them 2.9-0. I think they'll struggle against Afghanistan if they play on Afghanistan in a similar pitch like England played them today. I think they'll really struggle, especially against the spin. Because Mitchell Santner bowled really well today. He got free for, but bowling really kind of slow, loopy stuff. So kind of a spinner after my own heart. It was like glorious to watch, because completely, especially Stoinis, just couldn't pick it whatsoever. Sodhi as well bowled really well. Salvi, Bolt. I think they're just very skilled, experienced bowlers who, on the big stage, know what to do. You know, they got to the final last year. They got to the final 50 over World Cup. They're always there and thereabouts. And I think potentially Australia just underestimated them, I would say.
Yeah, you never expect New Zealand to be the threat in a tournament. Yet in the last 2 white ball World Cups, they've gotten to the final and have deservedly so.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yet they're still the dark horses.
Yeah, and everyone always like, but it's only New Zealand.
They don't have a Glenn
yeah.
Maxwell, do they? Only some bloke whose first name is named after an English county.
Oh god, Devon. But yeah, a really great performance by New Zealand. That's really kind of like stamps an authority, I think. I think this World Cup could be won by anyone. I just don't think it's gonna be won by Australia. But yeah, massive. So you didn't obviously watch much of it, but any other thoughts on the game?
Like just looking back on the first round and the 2 games today, there have been a lot of very low scores.
Yeah.
Like around 110 odd. I think
apart from New Zealand, who got 200.
Yeah, apart from New Zealand, who smashed it. I think we could get a lot of games which see like some teams getting like 120 odd.
Yeah.
Just because of how the pitches have been playing so far, which makes for much more interesting games.
I think so, definitely. You will definitely get some games where they absolutely smash all over the place, but I think, especially in the World Cup, especially when it comes down to the wire, players want to take less risks. I think 150, 160 might end up being probably a parish score, especially if the wickets are the same as they were in Perth. But yeah, exciting stuff. T20 vibes. Let's go. Tomorrow got a couple of little games. Like I said, Ireland and Sri Lanka. Then it got a small little game between two small associate teams, India and Pakistan. I think there are a couple of 100,000 people seeing that live or something. We might cover it. Who knows?
It's happening.
Might be a good game. But yeah, I think that's all from me. Otherwise, enjoy first day of the T20 World Cup. Anything else from you, Jamie?
Live the game, love the game. Where's our fucking World Cup song?
Oh, I miss it so much. But yeah, we'll be back soon with more Live the Game, Love the Game. ICC World Cup 2020.
Just not Crickpod on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok.
The links in the video. Links in the video. If Jamie does it. Bye-bye.